Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Framerate is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This episode of Framerate is brought to you by MailRoute.info. MailRoute is a secure hosted service that provides enterprise-grade virus and spam filtering to companies of any size. Try it right now absolutely free at MailRoute.info.
This can't be good. What am I supposed to do?
Sin balas. Here they come.
Change the scheme, alter the mood. Electrify the boys and girls if you'd be so kind. Come on.
It's Framerate. I'm Tom Barrett.
I'm Brian Brushwood.
And we're just going to play Tron Legacy, Daft Punk, D-Rez, over and over. Enjoy. See you later.
I did enjoy Daft Punk's very brief appearance in the middle of that video. I'm trying to find the exact spot so I can actually flash it up there. But that's how cool. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting soft to my old age, but I used to hate.
It's the lotion you're using.
Cheesy things like show band members in movies, but now I kind of love it. It depends on whether or not I love the band or not. But it's like I dig that Daft Punk appeared in that video right there, or in the movie.
Yeah. I like that stuff too. Do you used to think that was cheesy if people did that?
It just felt heavy-handed to me. It felt like a wedge in, like when somebody's holding a Pepsi or a Pepsi, you know, like in Back to the Future when he asks for a Pepsi free. It's just like, well, somebody just got a raise based on that plug right there. And it seems to me like movies need to be timeless and outside of when they're shot. And whenever there's some kind of crass consumerism wedged into it, it just looks hilarious and stupid. And that goes for, like, you've got in The Matrix when they drop their phone and you very clearly see the Nokia logo as it drops down, or whether it's in, like, you know, say The Island, the sci-fi movie, the Michael Bay thing, where it's like, you know, he's very clearly holding the brand new aluminum bottle for Budweiser or Bud Light or whatever it was. I don't know. I just feel like
That looks delicious, man.
I hate that too. Whoa, was I parched?
Whoa, wait a minute.
That's refreshing.
What was that?
Oh, this is just a brand new holiday edition Diet Coke.
Oh, that looks delicious.
Exactly. See, that's that kind of crass consumerism that
we would like to get paid for on Framerate. You hear us, Coke?
You know what? My opinion will instantly change the moment we start drawing paychecks for that kind of thing. Absolutely, 1,000%. You better believe it.
All right. Well, we're talking about Tron. And for those who are watching live, there's going to be a Tron Legacy special. You may have seen little clips that Sarah Lane brought back from interviewing the directors and some of the people that worked on the visual effects. We showed them on Current Geek a couple times. They've been around here and there on Twit, but we've got a full-on special coming on right after Framerate, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And if you're watching Framerate or listening to Framerate as a podcast, you can go to the Twit Specials, and you'll be able to download it from the Twit Specials section at twit.tv.
I like what they're doing with the Twit specials. It gives us at the Twit Cottage the ability to do things that we would never think of doing. It's a single channel for all things quirky or unique or special events dedicated to specific things going on. I'm really stoked about that.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on into the big story.
This just in, the big story.
Walking freaking Dead. Are you caught up?
I am caught up. And
Okay.
no lie, man, we traveled all day yesterday, coming back from San Diego where I was visiting with my family, came back. It was like 11 o'clock before I went to bed and before my wife went to bed. That was the important thing because me, I'll stay up till 2 a.m. watching whatever. But my wife, it's like, this is one I'm not going to cheat on my wife on. I'm going to watch it with her. So I was like, hey, how about we watch that Walking Dead?
We're going to be very extra careful about spoilers, and we're even going to have a whole section later on in the show about spoilers.
Nope.
But just for the point of the big story, wow.
I did. Okay, first of all, we got to hash this spoiler thing out once and for all because we love to talk about The Walking Dead, and we love what they're doing, and we love to compare it to the comic book. So I think what we need to do in the short term, before we establish long term what we're going to do, if you're going to talk about something, just say, hello, people, spoilers, in the next 30 seconds
That's
or
what I'm
so.
saying. We're going to be very careful about spoilers and saying, like, we are about to spoil The Walking Dead.
Right, okay. Well,
Hey, you know what?
About to spoil
Stop
The Walking
now.
Dead.
You know what we
Leave
need?
the chat room.
We need a drop. We need a spoiler drop. So when you know for certain that you're about to spoil something, you give me the cue, and it's undeniably spoil, tune out if you don't
Like
want
a
to hear
klaxon.
Like
Some kind of like light striking sound effect. And
Yes. We need something there.
Yes.
Or
Okay,
comment.
so Web6001, who says, if you spoil, I'll turn off. Turn off
Turn off.
now and come
Go
back.
check on the kids for a little bit.
But what about
The
me? I
grown-ups
haven't
have to
seen it.
talk
I
about
can't
The Walking
turn off.
Dead.
Okay,
All
it's
right,
not,
go.
it's not going to be that spoilery.
Yeah,
We're just
go
talking to
for
the
it.
people. So here we go. The spoiler alert has been clearly given.
You first.
We've given
You
you
go
time
first.
to run in from the other room. The end of this most recent episode, which is the second to last episode, the season finale is this coming week.
I wouldn't just say the end. I would say the last 20 minutes of the episode.
Changes the entire series away from the comic book.
Very fundamentally, and I'm not gonna say anything. I want to hear your comments before we move forward.
It was like a roller coaster, right? At first, I was like, what the hell is that? Okay, well, they're going to go to the CDC. Like, okay, well, maybe this is going to be like going to the prison in the comic book. I don't know. But all right, I'll hang in there. This is interesting. It's causing a divide. Everything else is fairly similar, and I'm cool with that. And I'm cool with changes, and I like to be in suspense. And then, I'm blanking on his name. The sheriff's buddy.
Wait, how did you do that? You caused me to blank on his name. He's the
His
other
name
guy.
has been wiped out.
Shane.
Shane. Yes, thank you, Shane. Shane's with them. What is Shane doing there? He's not supposed to. That's supposed to happen already. That's like key to Rick Grimes' character, and yet they leave the encampment without that happening.
Okay. I don't.
So at the end, I was like, so anyway, when they get to the CDC and they're banging on the door, and I was like, this is boring. I'm still wondering, like, where's Merle? And I've got this, boring CDC storyline going on, and I actually expected the guy to go ahead and shoot himself in the mouth and them not get into the CDC, and then they would go along, and that would have been a diversion. I would have liked that better. But at the end, when they did get brought in, I was like, okay, this is interesting. We're finding out about what caused the zombie outbreak, which we never find out in the comic book. So I'm 61% in on this with some major caveats.
Content-wise, I'm on board. They have some exciting place they want to go with this, and I'm excited to see where it goes, especially knowing that this is blessed, that Robert Kirkman has something to do with all this. However, stylistically, I was hugely disappointed by the jarring difference in style. Everything we've seen from The Walking Dead so far has been one particular style that has been totally unique that in television content. When Rick made his way out of the hospital, it was 20 minutes of dead silence, no music in the background, nothing, and you felt real, like you were there in the place with him. And then he made it out, only to see this sea of corpses all around him. What I saw in the last 20 minutes of this episode, and I hate to say this because it will make it sound cheap and it will make it sound like I don't still love the series, but the last 20 minutes of this episode, everything we saw with the CDC on felt like a freaking episode of The Outer Limits. It felt cheap and stupid, and I was really disappointed by it. And I hope that, again, this is not me saying I don't have
Soundtrack
faith.
too, right?
It was just so out of left field, and it felt to me like somebody at a board meeting didn't believe in the actual story for The Walking Dead and felt the need to tack something in that had a sci-fi element to it.
You need to explain the virus there.
Really,
you need to explain
really
what the zombies.
And the way they explain the virus, he looks in a freaking microscope and some dancing molecules run around. It felt like Resident Evil out of nowhere. And I was like, what is this? This is not The Walking Dead. Walking Dead is about the drama and the anguish of people betraying each other and of society breaking down around you. It's
Which
about the
that episode
relationship-
had content-wise up until, like you say, the last 15, 20 minutes.
And again, chat room's already exploding saying that I don't like The Outer Limits. Outer Limits is great for what The Outer Limits is/was, but this is a different situation. The Walking Dead is a unique voice, a voice we've never heard on television, and for them to stray back to very familiar territory, very familiar conventions with the for example, even the fact that when he's talking into a webcam, and I understand you need to tell a particular story, but he's talking into a webcam and they've got stuttery herky-jerkiness, and then they've got analog style waving lines, and then they've got digital pixelization.
Yeah, no, that all didn't make any sense. It's like
It
he's
just
probably
felt
recording
silly.
it locally. There's no internet anymore.
Well, exactly. And I understand
So
that
why
you
is he
need to-
having buffering issues?
Exactly. And I understand you need to tell a story, and there are conventions, and you and I already had this argument about how to tell a story with computers, but it felt so heavy-handed after everything they've done that's so analog about The Walking Dead and so great about the Walking Dead, to go herky-jerky, dorky visual, digital on it just felt so out of place.
Jorky, dorky. Yeah, no, it just makes you incoherent. I understand. Now
It makes me unable to pronounce my words, is what it does. That's how frustrated I am.
I can't remember anybody's name. Is it Eric, who's the mechanic who gets bit and tries to hide it?
No, but now that you said the word Eric, I can't remember his actual name.
Jim.
Stop
His
naming
name
names.
is Jim.
There you go.
Jim.
It's Jim, yeah.
Is his name Ernie? His name's Ernie, isn't it?
I did
Jim.
like
I did.
the way they
I
told-
disagree with some people. I've had some chats with people who are like, I didn't like the way they told Jim's story. I thought it was cheap. I actually was fine with the way they told Jim's story. I thought that was handled okay. And in fact, Daryl gets a little bit of, like, just a tiny sprinkling of humanity in him at that point that
Yes.
you haven't seen at all.
Yes, absolutely. And sensible humanity. And it makes you, it's one of those moments when you realize that it's not a world of black and white. It's a world of these bizarre grays, and who's an enemy one day on one issue will be a friend another day on another issue. And I liked all that. Again, when Walking Dead is focused on its strengths, I'm all in. Everything I got, my heart and soul, everything goes in on this. This is so out of left field. And who knows, maybe next week I'll be singing its praises, saying it's one of the most bold direction shifts that I was skeptical, but now I'm blown away. But it just stylistically felt so out of place. It really made me uncomfortable.
You know, Bizarre Grays is the name of my P-Funk cover band.
Did you say Bizarre Grace?
Bizarre Grays.
Oh,
That's what you just talked about, the Bizarre Grays.
that's right. Okay, gotcha.
Because of the mothership. All right, let's move on to another big story.
Stop everything. It's another big story.
We are now spoiler-free.
And the spoiler reign has ended. When that first started, because it had the old-timey music thing, I honestly think Jason had figured out a workaround and was holding up a microphone to
Pretty close, actually.
All right, so the big story, we talked about it at length on Tech News Today. Comcast and L3 are fighting over delivery of internet service. Specifically, L3 is now the host of Netflix streaming video.
So I'm on the outside on this one, and I need you to explain it to me. I read the headlines on this, but I haven't read the articles in depth. And part of me kind of intentionally didn't want to because I knew you would have better insight as to what this actually meant than I would. But I know that Twitter is exploding with, the hate speech, the rah, rah, rah. This is why I've always regarded net neutrality as the third rail of internet politics, where it's like the moment you mention anything on net neutrality, they will crush you online. They'll crush you in the blogs. They'll crush you on Twitter. And that's part of why I say the government doesn't need to get involved, because I've always assumed the individuals would speak up. But I don't know. Maybe I'm about to be proved wrong. Tell me about the story.
Is there a campaign to change your Twitter avatar yet for this? Because we really need to get one started.
You know what? Maybe we'll get it started.
All the good colors have been taken.
Let me say right now that if you support net neutrality, you should put a frame rate logo in the lower right-hand corner of your Twitter avatar. It's the only way to prove.
If we get a sponsor, we'll add you to our logo. Okay. Actually, we do have a sponsor today. Frame Rate is brought to you by Mail Route, as you probably already know. But we can't drink Mail Route. So,
yet.
Okay, so here's the deal. L3 is a backbone provider, a backbone ISP. Comcast is, of course, your local ISP. Usually the way this stuff works is called peering. Comcast says, we'll take all the traffic you send to us, from your backbone, as long as you take all the traffic we send to you from our users. And if it balances out pretty much, I'm oversimplifying, but then we'll call it even and we won't charge. It is also typical in these arrangements that if one partner or the other is out of whack, that there's a charge to kind of make up the difference. What happened is L3 had a peering arrangement with Comcast. Everything was kosher. Then L3 went and signed a deal with Netflix to carry all of Netflix video. That's what's called CDN, being a content distribution network. Akamai is one of those. Akamai is not also an ISP. So you've got a complex issue on the L3 side, which is they are an ISP and now a CDN. Netflix sends a frackload of bits across the internet.
So plans to send much more. So right?
Comcast,
they're just ramping it up.
Exactly. That's just getting more. So Comcast says you're going to be sending us a lot more video. We need to change the arrangement, or we're going to block your bits. We won't accept your bits. L3 cried net neutrality violation. Says, look, you're blocking us because it's Netflix, and Netflix is a competitor with your cable system. And this is unfair. This is not the way this should work out. So there are two camps drawing up. One of the camps is saying, yes, this is a thorny issue on L3's side, but this has never happened before. Usually these arrangements are worked out much more amicably. And even if L3 is working as a CDN, as well as an ISP, Comcast is working as an ISP and a cable company and a content creator, and they want to buy NBC Universal. So they are not doing this simply because of the peering being out of balance. They're acting out of their own self-interest for video. They're just using that as an excuse. Comcast is saying, look, it's a peering arrangement. If we're going to be carrying a bunch more bits, it costs us money. And if we're not getting that value back out of L3, then they should pay us the difference. That's just the way the internet works.
Oh, my gosh. I never thought once I read the headlines that I would say this, but wow, this is a complicated issue. I actually don't know, because it is, if they are sticking to the letter of the agreement and it's just a bandwidth issue, then I see where they're coming from. But politically, you got to admit this looks terrible for Comcast. You're the one. This is why you need to do one thing and be known for just one thing. All these companies want to be known like we're your everything. We're your telephone and your internet and your cable. Well, the problem with that is that when you make a move that makes sense as a bandwidth provider, you get accused of monopolistic practices because you have these fingers in these other pies.
And really, I've about probably stepped over the line of my understanding of all the nuances of how this works. We had Reed Fischler from Hurricane Electric. They're a backbone ISP. He was on the Tech News Today and did a great job of explaining just where the problems are and the issues between these two. So I highly recommend going over there if you really want to get further into it.
Let's take some backseat driver attitude to this. Look,
okay.
I mean, let's face it. You and me, we're not going to fix this thing one way or the other. But if we're placing bets, let's open up the frame rate pool on how this all plays out. Where are you betting? You're betting on our new sponsor, Diet Coke.
I am betting on mailroute.info. No, I am betting Comcast wins this round, but it hurts their ability to purchase NBC Universal because FCC has already said, we're going to look into this. We're going to see what happens. And the FCC is crispy burnt. And so just speaking from the gut, I don't think they will overrule this. I don't think they will go out on a limb for this one. But I think it will affect the decisions going into the purchase. It will complicate the purchase of NBC Universal by Comcast because, as we talked about on Tech News Today, it's an entirely different issue if you're just a backbone or even a consumer ISP. It gets a lot more complicated when you're all of these things. When you're a content creator and a content deliverer and an ISP. So I think this is going to really complicate things for Comcast. Although I don't think it's going to change things for L3.
Now, when you say that Comcast wins this round, is that because they're right or because they've got the power? Like, because the way you described it, and again, I'm on the outside. I'm an idiot who eats fire for a living. But you, what you described is if it's a peering arrangement. I mean, it sounds like they're in the right.
Yeah, and legally they are. I don't think there's I don't think there's a law that can stop them the way things are now, unless it's antitrust. And that's why I say, like, the deal between L3 and Comcast is going to stand because from what I know so far, I don't see a reason why it wouldn't. But I think it will prove an example to be used in other cases to say, you know what, I don't know if we should allow a company to own all of these different pieces.
Well, and again, you could get away with being a monopoly as long as you don't act unfairly as a monopoly. I mean, that seems to be the law. But I'll tell you what, if you want the fire brought down upon you, then you just cross the internet, because do you know how fast the internet responds to stuff?
Oh, yeah.
The TriCaster right here at Twit has already tweeted that he supports net neutrality with a very tiny frame rate logo in the upper right-hand corner.
I think I see it.
Of his Twitter avatar.
That's awesome.
Leave it to the
it's like, that's what
TriCaster.
you're facing.
This is settled.
On the internet.
This
a
is
lot
entirely
of
settled.
good stuff.
Well, and the other thing that we talked about is the fact that even though Comcast is in the legal right, the marketplace should put pressure on them to accept Netflix traffic. Let's simplify it. Even though it's video traffic, or even though it's traffic as a whole, they're not discriminating on the bits, because people would say, "Oh, what you mean? If I get Comcast, I can't do Netflix streaming? Out of here!" But we don't have a competitive enough marketplace.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is I take a lot of heat because I say I believe that you don't need the government to intervene. But the reason I believe that you don't need the government to intervene is because the internet is so loud and so passionate about this issue. And the only way that it will continue to be this way, the only way that net neutrality will be the third rail, is if we explode with rage every time there's anything that comes close to interfering with our ability to get our content in any way that we desire. And so it's important that everybody make a lot of noise every single time something like this comes up, because otherwise the easy thing to do is to buy off a politician and get some legislation, but then it just gets dirtier. I mean, even the EFF can't decide if they're on the side, or I mean, I may be speaking out of turn here, but my understanding last time I checked in on this was the EFF was it's a two-headed dragon. On the one hand, you do get net neutrality, but on the other side, you have more government regulation, which very rarely works out in favor of the individual.
You know, we may not be able to solve net neutrality on today's show, Brian, but I bet we could solve spam.
No way.
Sounds crazy, doesn't it?
Just spam's huge. Everybody knows that spam is like the rain. Nothing you can do but sit there and let it rain down all over you. Rain its Viagra, Cialis, C1 Alice all over your face. There's no way you can do anything about spam. Everyone knows it.
Well, if you run your own server, if you know how to change an MX record, and this especially is good if you run email for several people, maybe a family domain, maybe a small business, you can pretty much solve spam.
Wait, hold on. What if you pay someone else to run that kind of thing for you? Because I don't understand any of this stuff.
Well, then you could have them do the MX records and all that stuff and solve the spam.
I don't believe you. That's not possible.
Well,
not possible.
I would say you're right, except I've done it
What?
By going to mailroute.info. And
No
they
way.
are helping to bring you Frame Rate today. No false positives. They've blocked 3.7 million of Leo's messages last year. They've blocked
Now,
pretty
when
close.
you say 3.7 million,
Yeah.
what you mean is they blocked Leo's outgoing 3.7 million messages.
No, they blocked-
because everyone knew it was spam. Is that what you're
They
saying?
blocked 3.7 million incoming messages.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, gotcha.
That were
Okay.
spam with no false positives. Mailroute.info allows you to have your mail routed to their server. They kill the spam and then send the good stuff along to you. And it is very affordable for that. I mean, I have resurrected some Brilliant.com email addresses that I could not use before. They have a new option for small businesses and family users. The list price is $33 per year, but the TWIT discounted price, if you go to mailroute.info, is $29.70 per year. That's just under $2.50 a month. And you can just get rid of spam. And it doesn't, Gmail has a spam killer that works pretty good. You can use this with Gmail and clean out the rest of the spam. Or if you just have your own web-hosted email, you can use this to just filter it all out. It's a great service. I use it myself, mailroute.info. Tom Johnson came over from Microsoft where he wrote FrontBridge, the Microsoft-hosted exchange services. And then went on to try to solve the spam. So 99.99% uptime. Check it out at mailroute.info. Time for Film Found. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Film Found on Frame Rate.
Dateline 2010. It's Film Found Fever has hit the interwebs.
So opening this weekend, The Warrior's Way. Gonna see it? Not gonna see it? Care to see it?
I will not see it because there's a backlog. There's so much other stuff, and I don't know anything about The Warrior's Way. Tell me why I should watch The Warrior's Way.
Asian warrior assassin struggling to find peace, contentment, and perhaps love in a forgotten Western town on the edge of the desert.
Oh, that's right. I did see the preview for this, and it did look awesome.
It looks
looked
pretty
a little
awesome.
bit cartoonish and over the top, though. I don't know that I need to see it in the theater. I think I'll get most of what I'm going to enjoy out of this watching it on Netflix.
If you can watch it on high def, probably fine. Although I think it plays well in the theater because it's got lots of good fight scenes. Lots of sword
yes,
play.
Certainly. That's one of the. There's nothing like a movie that you see at the theater, and this appears to have these over the top armies advancing scenes, which just you got to be there to experience. But I do not think I will go see this in the theater.
Also, a couple of deaths. We don't do obits all that much on Frame Rate, but
but when they're legendary obits.
Irvin Kershner died at age 87. He directed The Empire Strikes Back, without a doubt the best of the Star Wars movies.
Yes. And in fact, there was I tried to find it, but it was like 10 years old, the article I was looking for, and I couldn't find it in time. But there was a quote he gave talking about the differences in opinion about storytelling. And this must have been like in 1998 or 1997 that I read this article when it was talked about him directing one of the prequel movies that came out. And he talked about the importance of preserving mystery. He said that he would never, ever, if he directed Return of the Jedi, show Darth Vader's face. He says that's the closest he would ever get is what he did in Empire Strikes Back, where you saw the back of his head. And it's so important and it's so right, and he gets it. If Irvin Kershner, in my perfect parallel alternate universe, Irvin Kershner was 10 years younger and he was able to write and develop and direct the prequels and make them chock full of new mysteries for us to consider, new scenarios for us to explore, and not just give us a bunch of stupid answers like what the Clone Wars were, the way freaking Darth Sellout did.
And surely you know that Leslie Nielsen passed away.
Oh my gosh, that was good. That was going to be my original pick for the opening video for this. Was I was going to find one of the airplane clips and play that.
I said, Brian, surely you know Leslie Nielsen died.
Oh, God, I'm the worst co-host ever. Of course he died. And don't call me Shirley.
There we go.
I didn't know he was Canadian. Did you know that? He was born in Regina.
Well, he's funny, wasn't he? That means he's Canadian. Everyone knows everyone funny on
true.
the planet Earth is from Canada.
Or England. None of them are
there was a
American.
great obituary I read that talked about the 4 careers of of Leslie Nielsen. And people don't remember, first of all, he was a worker. Over 1,500 TV appearances.
Well, and if you paid attention at all in the 80s, you realize this because you just everywhere you turned, there was Leslie Nielsen. He was everywhere.
You saw him everywhere, right? And then his leading man, I guess his comedy debut on Airplane. He called himself a closeted comedian. And in fact, and there's almost like there's a side journey. How great was he in Creepshow with Ted Danson?
Oh, right.
Very
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Playing somebody who was getting murdered by this psychopath. And Leslie Nielsen was amazing and creepy, genuinely creepy in it. Then, of course, the Police Squad, which unfortunately died instantly after only 6 episodes, I believe, which was so funny. And so many of the bits got resurrected for the Naked Gun. And, of course, the Naked Gun and him becoming king of the absurdist parody movies.
Did you see him on Saturday Night Live? He did his monologue. This was probably late 80s, early 90s. I can't remember exactly, but he just...
I totally know where you're headed with
He got
this.
up there and he said, I say unfunny things in an unfunny way, and people laugh at me.
Yes. And, it's just, and he gave an illustration where he said, where it's like, and it was so amazing.
Oh, it was
and
brilliant.
And like from a comedy perspective, I wonder what if he did anything different or if it was all in the expectation. But he says, for example, if I was in a drama, I might say, come over here, Peter, have a seat. I want to talk to you. But if I was in a comedy, I would say, come over here, Peter, have a seat. I want to talk to you. And somehow it was funny the second time around. The guy's a damn genius.
He was. And he was in Forbidden Planet.
Yes, he and that was one of the comments that I love most in the obituaries I read was that he got outacted by a robot. And what I mean, like people talked more about Robbie the Robot than they did about his performance, and he was so classy and so cool with it. Leslie Nielsen, here's to you, sir. I raise my ambiguous mug of some drink because I'm not a crass consumerist like somebody here.
Pour a little out.
Are you gonna pour out a 12 ounce for our homie?
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
I think he'd appreciate that.
So you know that Forbidden Planet was The Tempest, right? It was William Shakespeare's The Tempest.
No, I didn't know that.
Told as a sci-fi epic. Highly recommend you go check out.
I like that. I like that when people steal kind of plot structures and then remake them in a way that's sort of unrecognizable, but recognizable if you look close enough.
Right. One of those things where you realize it maps one for one. For example, Oh Brother,
like
We're Out.
Oh Brother, We're Out There. That's one of my favorite examples of that, which, if you don't know, is The Odyssey.
Yes.
Folks out there in the audience. All right. Finally, great write-up on IO9 about Andrew Niccol's latest effort. What is it called? I keep forgetting. He made Gattaca and The Truman Show, and they got a hold of a leaked script, 91 pages. It's called Now. It was apparently formerly titled I'm Mortal. It's now called Now.
This particular article on IO9, as I read, and I found myself in a moral quandary, and I'd love to find out what your take on it was. It gives a rough sketch of the story so far, and essentially, time left to live is a currency in it.
Spoilers.
Yeah, sorry, spoilage. What, dude? You're gonna find that out in the trailers. That's fair to say. You got to say what the movie's about.
No, the premise of the movie is not a spoiler, is it? I don't think so.
I don't think it is either. But it's in a world where time is a currency. Time left to live is a currency, and you can steal it, you can trade it, and it talks a little about the motivation of the characters. But specifically, it gets to, and I'm trying to find the exact phrase here. About 2/3 through the article, it says, and this is where it gets a little more spoilery. Consider yourself warned. I totally chickened out at that moment.
Oh, I kept reading.
Beyond that.
I skimmed. I actually went from reading to skimming at that point, but I still kind of skimmed, like read a sentence of a paragraph.
When you skim, your eyes, my eyes betray me. Like I get halfway down the article, I'm like, and I look away, and I'm like,
the premise is brilliant, right? If you put your hand over someone else, your wrist over someone else's wrist, you can get time from them, giving you the upper hand. And when I say time, you get time to live. And so it's an entire economic parable, but told where the currency isn't money. The currency is your life.
Right.
Rich people live.
I love alternate explanations for things, but when I was a kid, I read a bunch of sci-fi stories that had elements like that, and it totally messed me up because I thought that was the reason we called things certain things.
Oh,
It's right. It's very clever writing, but I hate the lingering after effects of what it does to young people who get into that. But like I love the stories of where common phrases come. You know where pig in a poke came from?
It came from I was going to make something up. I don't know where it come
Pig
from.
in a poke and left holding the bag. Do you know how the two of those are related?
Trying to get pigs into the poke.
Nope.
And then
and keep in mind,
you're left with the
I'm
bag.
recounting all this. This is a campfire story. For all I know, I'm totally wrong. But back in the Middle Ages, somebody would offer to sell you a pig in a poke, which would be a pig in a bag, because a poke is something that you hold your stuff in.
And it wouldn't be a pig.
Would be good, right? But then you would buy it, and you would find out that it was nothing but a shaved cat or shaved rat, and you were left holding the bag.
So giving a pig in a poke is something that's fake. It's not actually a pig. Makes sense.
No. Pig in a poke is a good thing, right? Because that's a treasure. You want a pig in a poke. An actual pig, an actual poke is a good thing.
But if you're left holding the bag, that means your bag doesn't have a pig in it.
Exactly.
Why isn't it left holding the poke?
I don't even know.
I'm going to start saying it that way.
No, sir.
All right, time for Tube Tops. I have no idea about this show, Psych. Have you ever heard about this show, Psych?
I love the premise of it. The premise of it is that you got a cop and a psychic who's a total fake person, which already I love it. Anyone who publicly says that psychics are totally fake, I already am predisposed to like the show. I never got around to watching it because the reviews for the first season were kind of lukewarm.
I will now have to watch it because they are reuniting members of the cast of the original. There hasn't been another one. The cast of Twin Peaks.
No, there was. Well, there hasn't been a remake, but they did the movie.
They did a movie, and there was a different actor for one of the parts. That's true.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at the trailer. And if you're at all a fan of Twin Peaks, you're going to love this.
In all my years of police work, I've never seen anything like it.
I know.
On December 1st,
I know who killed Paula Merrill.
don't miss the tribute to the groundbreaking series, Twin Peaks.
3 cinnamon pies, please.
Damn fine cup of cider. And it's a damn fine episode.
Epic.
Psych, all new and supersized Wednesday, December 1st at 10 on USA. Characters welcome.
Love it.
Were you a fan of Twin Peaks?
You know what? I was too busy being in high school to care about Twin Peaks.
I love Twin Peaks.
I do love the soundtrack to Twin Peaks. I totally
You must go. You can watch Twin Peaks pretty much everywhere. CBS owns the rights, and they have it like everywhere. I can't think of a place it's not. It was on Juiced, if you remember Juiced.
Kyle MacLachlan was the lead in that, right?
Kyle MacLachlan, yeah. He was the FBI investigator. The sheriff's name was Harry Truman. It was fantastic show, and of course, the big tall guy was in dream sequences, and apparently he's just there. And they go to a small town to investigate problems with a cinnamon festival.
Of course. Why wouldn't there be problems with the Cinnamon Festival?
It's just brilliant. There's another trailer. It's not quite as Twin Peaksy out there. We don't need to play that one. But anyway, I may check out Psych for the first time, so it's working on me anyway. And then Fringe. Are you watching Fringe?
You know what? That's one I may have to dive into in the same way we did the Great The Wire experiment, because I hear so much overwhelmingly positive stuff about Fringe, which it's so interesting to not watch a show and hear how opinions evolve over time. Because when it first came out, there was a lot of, I don't know. But now people are passionately talking about it.
It was a slow starter. And you can skip a lot of the early episodes. But man, is it good now. And they're moving it to Fridays because they want American Idol to take over the Thursday slot. And so Fringe is going to Fridays, and it looks like they're setting it up to be canceled.
Yeah, that's a soft cancellation when you move something to Friday night. Or if you're Joss Whedon, that's opening weekend. When you open it, when you go straight to Friday nights right at the beginning.
All right, so if any of you are skeptical about Fringe and you're thinking, maybe I won't watch it, or I don't want to catch up, I don't want to jump in the middle, watch this trailer for the next episode called Entrada. And it's like a freaking movie trailer.
Hello?
I know this is gonna sound crazy, but I just saw a woman disappear in front of my eyes.
Who is this?
Her name was Olivia. She has a message for you. She's trapped in the other universe.
is it? This is not my home.
Because you come from another universe.
Yes.
They started the war.
You don't have to remind me whose side I'm on.
My world is dying because of what your side is doing to us.
My universe is not at war with yours. This all began because a man came over here to save a boy. And 25 years later, I came back to save that same boy. Both universes can't survive. There must be another way.
Put your guns down or I will kill her!
Dana, freeze!
You gonna kill me?
No, I'm gonna get answers. And if I find out that you did anything to Olivia, then I'm gonna kill you.
Wait, was she holding?
Spinner.
Was she holding herself hostage at the end?
She holding some what?
Was she holding herself hostage, her other self hostage?
No, I think that was just another person, but
So someone with the same haircut.
I could.
To me, like if they have the same haircut, they got to be the
Well,
same.
no, but that's how I know. That's how I didn't think it was the same person, because she's got red hair in one universe and blonde in the other.
Okay. Dude, look, stop showing me stuff like that, because now I'm going to be upset and I'm going to be like, well, is this the part where there are two of them when I start on the first episode?
Actually, what this does, what J.J. Abrams is doing with this is he's saying, screw that catching up stuff. Start now. Just
right.
watch. And then you can go watch the other episodes as if they were prequels.
You know what? I might do that. I might hop in feet first in the middle of a series, which is something that I don't like to do on principle, but I honestly don't think I'll watch it any other way because the first season had such middling reviews.
And there's really only one spoilerish moment that you've missed, where the first season, at the very end of the first season, they reveal the two universes concept, right? But frankly, that first season is really not worth watching entirely anyway. So jumping in now, you're just jumping into the good stuff.
All right. Well, maybe I will do that, because there have been other shows that realized that they were on the verge of canceling and they ramped up really fast. I know Dollhouse did that, but by the time it happened, it was already too late. They were already hosed. But I love the fact that if that is what they perceive is going to happen, I love the fact that they're selling the idea of jump in now, because it's going to get really good really fast.
All right, let's move on to Cipro, an antibacterial agent for our viral video. It's not going to work. Cipro won't do anything for viral videos.
Of course it will. It'll keep you from being sick while you watch your viral videos.
That's true. That's true.
Watch them.
All right. Our Cipro today is actually not a video, but it is the question we have been teasing all through this entire episode, which is, what's the deal with spoilers? We kind of started this last week.
And I think this is an important question for our generation, the generation who watches their TV.
The spoiler generation.
Yeah, exactly. We watch our TV and even our movies time shifted, time delayed. We watch our viral videos out of sequence, and all of a sudden there's an etiquette where you need to decide what's appropriate as far as, you know, what's a spoiler and what's not a spoiler. And we've talked about the difference between, there are some people who self-impose on themselves, I'm not even going to watch a trailer for this because I don't want anything to affect my experience going into this movie. And there are other people, you know, who obviously will not see a movie unless they have a vague idea what it's about. So where do you want to begin on this, man?
Well, I think we have a couple emails. Maybe we should just read these emails as advocates for the different positions. You want to start?
Yeah, we'll get started here. Last episode, we said, I think you said, blah, 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 Walking Dead, they haven't gotten to the prison yet. And I brought up the fact that that's the same as saying they haven't gotten to the hatch yet, in that for people who watch Lost.
Right.
Because regardless of whether or not
you've spoiled the previous episode of Frame Rate now.
You can spoil the past episode of your own series. That's how it works.
I guess
You're
that's true.
allowed to do
Okay,
that.
all right, never mind.
But just as with Lost, knowing there's a hatch would fundamentally change your understanding of this island that they're on. Likewise, knowing that something significant happens about the prison would change your expectations, and you would sit there wondering, oh, is this the prison? Is this the prison? Is this the prison? So we asked the readers to send in their opinions at framerateshow@gmail.com. And the first response we got was this one right here. First of all, love the show. My husband and I have been watching through all of the release candidates.
Oh, thank
Tom, I'm sorry, but I've got to agree with Brian on this one. I'm a huge fan.
Boo this woman.
But I haven't had the pleasure of reading the comics. Knowing that something big and important happens when they arrive at a prison kind of takes the wind out of it for me. I'm sure I'll still love it and will be surprised by what happens, but I will definitely be expecting something. Anyway, keep up the great work. Loving this, Kate. That's one for Brian, for those of you keeping track at home.
Well, now I didn't say something big and important happens, and it seems like all of these arguments center on the premise that I said something really big and important. I just said they haven't got to the prison yet.
You wouldn't bring it up if it wasn't a big deal.
I might.
No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't.
It'd be like saying he hasn't met the horse yet.
That's exact. I mean,
that's not getting the horse is not a huge important thing in Walking Dead, but it is a marker along the way. Doesn't spoil anything to say he hadn't got the horse yet.
No. I disagree, because like anything you remember is going to be significant. You're not going to remember an insignificant detail from a classic movie or a classic story. But it's the same way with, like, for example, Cool Hand Luke.
You're just putting words in my mouth now. I didn't say anything.
All right. You want to read the next one? I'm sure the next one will be in your favor.
Let's get this one. It says, hi, guys. Love the show. I think the definition of what constitutes a spoiler is a very personal thing. People have varying levels of how much is okay to know going into something. Some of my friends are completely spoiler-proof and go out of their way to read up on absolutely everything before going in, often including scripts. Others will watch trailers and have conjectural conversations about it, but won't read scripts or blog leaks. Then there are those like me who prefer absolute media blackout on things that are already super hyped. For me, it's Tron Legacy. I'm going opening day no matter what. I don't need to know anything and don't want to see any of the visuals before going in. I want to re-experience that world for the first time in a comfyish chair in the sweet spot of the room, taking it in with a giant tub of heart attack popcorn. But it may sound like he's not supporting me. I do agree with where I think Tom was going. I don't see that as your job to enforce mine or anyone else's spoiler freedom. Frame Rate, as a show that covers such things, should cover them in as much detail as the show format would normally dictate. It's my responsibility to say, hey, they're getting ready to talk about something I don't want to be spoiled on, so I'm going to skip ahead to a few minutes. Being spoiler-free is a goal, not a right. It takes work and sometimes an unreal level of vigilance or the ability to switch off your social life.
Well, allow me to be the first to apologize for our opening video and spoiling Tron Legacy. The one thing you didn't want spoiled for you. We sneak attacked and we showed you.
No, but as soon as he sees it's Tron, he can turn it off, and it won't have spoiled that much.
But you can't for example, Star Trek: The Phantom Menace, right? All you need to see is 3 frames.
Well, that's like saying I can't drive down the street because there might be a billboard of Tron.
No. I'm saying, for example, in The Phantom Menace, you need to see only 3 seconds of Obi-Wan Kenobi going, no, to know, oh, well, I guess Qui-Gon dies at the end.
But the first bit of Tron is not a spoiler like that we showed.
No. To be honest, I figured out, I turned out to be totally right. I was able to figure out the entire plot, or the bulk of the plot from Tron from the first teaser trailers, knowing
the full trailer, not the first frame of the first trailer.
No. Well, here's all I needed. I saw an old Flynn and a young Flynn.
Yeah, but that took my... What I'm saying is, as soon as you see that's Tron, look away, turn off. You probably haven't been spoiled.
Well, no. But what I'm saying is there's a surprising... If your brain can't switch off and you can't help but ask, well, why is this happening? And why is there an old and a young version? And why is this happening? And you end up piecing it together pretty much what happened. I was able to figure out that Kevin Flynn was trapped on the grid and that there was a young Kevin Flynn, the Clue program gone rogue, that was the bad guy in the middle of it. And I mean, it's like, I understand where he's coming from, where it's like, you gotta black it out. You gotta not see anything if you truly want a spoiler-free experience.
Well, and that's what this emailer is saying is, you know what? It's my responsibility to do that. And I should know if I'm watching a show that discusses television and movies that there might be a spoiler.
That's true. That's true. And one right in the middle, and I like this take on the whole thing. Evan writes us, says, this is my opinion on Walking Dead spoilers on your show. It is okay to spoil anything that happened on the show. Nothing from the comics, please.
Well, no,
so
that's
don't
just
mention
because we're not a show about comics.
Right. Yeah. So we shouldn't mention the fact that there's a prison or somebody named the governor or that somebody might die in the later part of the comic
Nice. Or Snape. Or it's made of people.
Or Snape or Dumbledore or any of these characters. I'm saying we shouldn't talk about it either.
I'm your father. She's my sister. She's my mother.
Exactly.
Yeah. So really, frankly, we could argue all day long whether saying they haven't got to the prison is a spoiler or not. The fact is, given our earlier conversation that was much more spoilery, they may never get to a prison in the TV show.
Well, and it's obvious that they're making changes. And to be honest, some of the things I like most in the TV show are the departures from the comic books. And so, yeah, I think that's fantastic.
And there are different, I think what we've learned here, there are different levels of spoiler toleration. And so for the absolutists, like our email, just saying they left camp, that's a spoiler because you said some kind of detail. But then other people may say like, oh, no, that's no more detail than you get in a trailer, so that's fine.
So this is another spoilery conversation because spoilers get a little more interesting when you have a new medium work based on a different medium existing work. And that's what we have with The Walking Dead. And it's also what we're going to have with HBO's Game of Thrones. Did you watch the latest, the third trailer?
I haven't seen the third trailer yet. When did that come out?
You know what? It came out just yesterday, I believe.
Okay, I got to dig that. I got to dig it up. Yeah, well, let's take a look.
All right, here we go. Here we go. This is the latest trailer.
Spoiler. Why I did it.
He ran away. He was a deserter.
You understand why I had to kill him?
I, Eddard, the House Stark, sentence you to die.
The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword.
My sweet summer child, what do you know about fear?
There's a war coming, Ned. I don't know when.
But it's coming.
Fear is for the long night, when the snows fall 100 feet deep.
You were trained to follow.
I was trained to kill.
Fear is for the winter.
Winter is coming.
So this one had a lot more substance to it than most of the other trailers that we've seen so far for Game of Thrones. What did you think of it, Tom?
Obviously had my mic turned off. And now I'm echoing in my mic.
Yeah, turn down your PC audio, Brian.
Sorry about that. Back. Yeah, no, I cranked it up because it was so low. Sorry to blast it out like that.
Or I was speechless. One of the two. I don't think that, well, I've read the books, right? So I'm not an adequate spoiler thermometer for that. But watching that did not give me any indication of where they are going with this story different from the book or how they're going to tell it. It just said, here are some more looks at the characters that you know and love.
That's exactly what it was. Is you could clearly tell who was Cersei, who was Ned Stark. You were able to peg together. I bet if we deconstructed it frame by frame, we would know who all the characters are. And let me just say this: I not that I don't believe in HBO's ability to tell a story, but this story is so precious to me. I read it in audiobook format. It is exquisitely performed by the voice actor Roy Dotrice. I highly recommend you experience it as the audiobook before the story comes out so that we don't go through the same things that we're going with The Walking Dead right now. Experience it so you can be on my side and have my opinions about how HBO is telling the story. That's all I'm asking you to do.
I can't wait to see it. It just looks like it's, again, similar to Walking Dead, a well-done production based on very good source material, but hopefully can stand in its own right. Let's move on to finish up with some emails about what you're watching. We don't have a little thing for that, so we go right into it. I was just wondering.
I was like, did we suddenly have an intro?
All right, so recommendations and a question from Gab, who says, I would like to recommend this FX show called Terriers. This Tuesday night could be its last show ever. That's tonight. Probably too late for you East Coast viewers watching live. It's only been its first season, and unfortunately, according to some blogs I've read, it's not getting great ratings. But he didn't tell us anything about it. Why should I watch it?
Not the best sales pitch.
Just telling me it's going to get canceled tells me it's not very good.
It's about dogs.
And it's about dogs.
Everyone, you should watch this show because it's terribly unpopular and nobody seems to like it. So you really ought to watch it as soon as you can.
You got to give me a little more to go on there. He also says Pushing Daisies lasted only 2 seasons, but its colorful world reminded me of Amelie, and its whimsical storylines filled with humor and poetry got me hooked and heartbroken when it wasn't renewed. Was there a show that you guys heard might be getting canceled, and did you do anything to try to save it? Well, Fringe, obviously, we talked about earlier. I loved Pushing Daisies as well. It was a victim of the writer's strike, because it was gaining momentum, but then they had to interrupt the season. They had to shorten the season. And when it finally came back the next year, even I, who loved it, missed the first 3 episodes. Thank goodness my DVR caught them, because I just didn't realize it returned.
Wow. So the closest to that experience I've had was being part of the brown coat movement for Firefly.
Yes.
I discovered Firefly after it was canceled, and man, when that movie came, when they announced that Serenity was coming out and they had the whole Can't Stop the Signal thing, I was a regular on those forum boards. I was posting every day. I was psycho into that, and it was really neat to be part of something. It was really frustrating to. I have often told people that watching Serenity in the theater was the exact experience that I had hoped watching The Phantom Menace would have been.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most magical movie experiences I've ever had.
Did you wear a brown coat?
No, but I totally knew all the words to the Jane song.
Excellent. We got what you want to read the final email before we wrap
this one, we got a fan who says we should watch Dexter. Hi, loving the show. Putting you both together is perfect and love watching you argue rationally together without getting angry. You can't move each other's point of view. So rare. My wife and I have worked out that you need to watch 5 episodes of a TV series before pulling the plug, unless it's plain terrible from the start. I feel the same way, and so did my wife. Did not expect it to turn into the best TV since Battlestar Galactica before the last 20 minutes. I assume he's talking about Dexter right now. If you guys try it for real, we'll have the Wire type experience. It starts to mess with you. Tough decisions turn up with some very dark humor. I figured it as a right-wing revenge theory show at first. They didn't go down that 24 road. Do we need to start a campaign of some sort to get you both to sit through season 1? By season 3, you'll be on the edge of your seat. My example of its genius, its twists and turns, but is rarely predictable. And then last week in season 5, I actually shouted at the TV for the first time in 34 years, wanting a character to react to something, then got the most satisfying return on my demand. They built a moment after being so unpredictable for so long. I'm doing that blabber thing when you try so hard to oversell something you love at 3 a.m. Thanks for reading if you got this far, Ian. You know what?
Let's do a Kickstarter campaign.
If you are down with me, if the chat room, if Twitter explodes telling us that we need to watch Dexter, maybe we'll give it that. Maybe that will be the next.
We should do it on Kickstarter. If you give us $100,
we will watch the first whole season of Dexter. I'm down with that, dude. Totally down with that.
Yeah, we should come up with some way to We should both set aside time to watch shows that we haven't watched before. Not Always Sunny in Philadelphia type stuff or Eureka or anything like that, but just shows that neither one of us have seen, like Dexter. And then we should come up with some way for the crowdsourced determination of what that next The Great Experiment is going to be.
Totally down with that. Totally down with that. Hey, so I got one question for you before we sign off here. Did you watch any shows or consume any media over the Thanksgiving holiday that you would not normally have consumed?
A lot of football.
See?
Because my sister, her husband, and her son were staying with us, and just sort of the son was sleeping on the couch out in the front room, so he kind of dominated that area, and they'd turn on football all the time. They just watched college football and pro football the entire weekend. Wasn't bad, but definitely stuff I would not have watched. I'm like text messaging Jason about Boise State's game. He's probably like, I'm not even watching that game. What's going on here? But
I almost tweeted, and I was afraid of losing my geek cred if I were to tweet out like, wow, that Boise versus University of Nevada, Reno, right?
Yeah.
The UNR game was amazing. Couldn't believe the choke twice. And I've discovered that my passion for sports is directly proportional to the number of people around me who are into it. It's like I understand the rules. It's essentially the original reality television, right?
Absolutely. I've always felt that when people start to diss on sports, like, you know, oh, how can people just sit around and watch other people? I'm like, what, Survivor, American Idol? I mean, all of these things are just watching other people perform. It's like you say, it's a reality game.
And what's great is I think it's also that random reinforcement. It's that gambling instinct. It's the fact that sports is the only arena of television where the good guys, as you define them, may lose from time to time. And in fact, will lose from time to time. And I think that's part of what makes people so passionate about it, along with all their, fond memories of having played when they were kids and understanding the rules, that kind of thing. But what a unique, we should do a sports episode of Frame Rate where two geeks try to understand what's great about sports programming.
Yeah. I'll just end up talking a lot about rugby and Venezuelan baseball on the Xbox.
Good.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching Frame Rate, Episode 4. You can email us with your recommendations, your thoughts, and your news tips to framerateshow@gmail.com. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Tom.
We'll see y'all later.
I'm acting like I'm fading away. Thank you, Tom. Somebody suggested that our spoiler thing should be this button right here where we just go like that.
Yes.
I like that.